Hi, everybody. Mark Hanna here. Wisdom Gaming, unapologetic, unscripted, straight from the top of my dome. And we're here to talk about today knight setup tactics for the defender and a little bit of a guessing game. Where is the hip? So here's a situation that I'm in here. Where is it? There we go. This is what I'm playing now. This is a setup for knight 3 in the Pegasus Bridge scenario group. It's a play test. And what you're seeing here is where I've set up as the Germans. You don't really see the British yet. He's going to be coming on with about 26 squads, total of 648s, designed to attack me. And basically, overall in this campaign game, the idea is going to be for the British, basically, to uh, create a perimeter over here, really, around this road here. Let me show you the road. They want to keep the Germans away from that. Here, I'll put the road in blue. Basically, it's this one over here. Wait a minute. Slide this over. Yeah, here we go. So we've got this road here comes around like this. Oh, I think actually I was wrong about the perimeter. The actual perimeter is going to have to be way over here because the British have to keep them. Of course, they also have to keep this bridge from being taken as well. But of course, if they keep them out at that perimeter for the entire campaign game, the Germans can't win. So the whole idea then for the Germans is to penetrate that area by the end of the scenarios. Meanwhile, the British then, when they have the full strength that they've got, they're going to be attacking out this way. Let's pick a color for the attack. There's a good one. Okay. So in this scenario, with all their 26 squads, they're going to be heading out this way, this way, this way. Also, really up here, they really need to take this town and control this environment over in that area. So you're going to see a lot of that happening in this particular scenario. Well, I might actually be doing a replay on it. I plan to. Anyway, so that's the situation. Now, Night 3 is a night scenario, but it's not an official night scenario in the sense that there's um, no move counters. Everybody's got freedom of movement, but the British will be setting up as the scenario attacker. I have set up as the scenario defender on both sides. The British here in the last scenario accomplished their goal, which was to split my forces. They did that by taking this grouping of houses here, which is actually the town hall. It's not a house. The post office is in there. Um, and then he was able to dig this foxhole to connect his perimeter. So you can see his perimeter is in the red area. Mine are the two blue areas that I've set up in. So what do I want to do? Well, the thing about setting up at night, there's two things that you have to keep in mind. There's probably a lot more than that. Um, the two things you really do want to keep in mind, though, are staying away from his cloaking counters so that they can assault move at you. You want to be able to hit them with an extra -1 DRM because if you can't illuminate them, they're going to be in cloaked status, they'll be concealed. And even with a -2 modifier for open and non-assault movement, you're still going to get the +1 in many cases for uh, the night blindness effect that occurs. So it could be hard to do something against cloaking counters, especially if you can't get your illumination going. And if you can't do that, you better start getting some minus modifiers on there in hopes of revealing some units, therefore giving you a better chance to place your star shells where you need to and keep the illumination up so that they can't approach you without taking more risks. That's a real cat and mouse game at the beginning. And later on, it becomes another cat and mouse game. This is the game I call, I don't know, if, I'm not really sure it's realistic. I'm curious where this information came from when they designed this game. But if you take a look at this, uh, it's really important to keep this in mind. Let me find the other markers for night. Let's pull a star shell out. Here's one. And turn on the night flicker here. There we go. Whoops. No, it's not dust, it's night. Okay. Nice feature of Vassal, of course, is that it does this illumination trick for you. If you're playing the real game, you don't get these kind of tricks, by the way. I've got more to say on that later. But here we are in Vassal. And so one of the things that you try to do, and I'm not so sure I like this particular gimmick, it's very gamey, but what you want to do, for example, as the attacker, and to a certain extent you can do this with the defender, is you want to get your star shells set up so that units at the perimeter, let's put that there. So for example, you see these two units here and here. Both of those units are in illuminated hexes, which means they can't see outside of the illumination. So what that means, and what the attackers try to do, is they set up this, oh, I'm going to move my cloaking counter right next to you. Ha ha ha. Guess what? You're illuminated. You can't see me. Game. It's a gamey tactic. I think it's gamey. Now, maybe, and I haven't read any accounts where this was used. Try to shoot those star shells up there so that they can't see us when we walk up. Um, I don't remember that being part of any of the tactical battle recounts that I've ever heard. So this is, I hate to say it, um, but I'm not afraid of saying it because this is about the truth on this channel, not about making everybody happy about the game. Um, it's gamey. I don't think that's the best use of this particular game. However, one thing that does mitigate this is that even if you can shoot a star shell at something you see, there is a random die roll that will happen here. For example, 6, 5, so direction 6, distance 5, even if that's halved, 1, 2, 3. So maybe you were trying to hide these guys back here, but you weren't able to because the star shell drifted over there. Okay, so it's not a guaranteed tactic, but it's something that people try to do because it can affect the game substantially. All right, so let's turn back on regular daylight hours, and we'll put this star shell up here. Now, the NVR in this game is actually 2 to start. We had it drip down to 1 last game, which is not unusual. So let's put that back up. Okay, so the other two critical components about defense is that the defender should never forget that for every full squad they've got, or equivalent, they get not a cloaking counter, an extra dummy counter. So for example, in this sector over here of my defense, I've got 12 squads, so that gives me 12 dummy counters out there. Over here, I think I have around 8, so there's 8 dummies. The attacker won't know where those are. Now, I'm not so sure an attacker with 26 648s is going to care that much about that, but it will make a difference in the other scenarios that you play. So the dummies need to be put judiciously out there. But one point I'd like to make, and I'm not the first person to make this, you don't really want your dummies in obvious places. Uh, the problem is if they're too obvious, the attacker, or in their like in the front line, the attacker is always going to send out his scouts, right? He's going to send out his 248s or whatever he's got, send them over there and check it out. So he'll just move right up to you and dare you to shoot. If you don't shoot, he'll think it's a dummy, and moreover, he'll just walk in to find out if it is. So, generally speaking, because the defender usually has a real disadvantage in versus the attacker is going to take risks that the defender can't afford to take. So if you put a dummy out there, unless you're dealing with an extremely cautious player, um, you'll lose your dummies and they won't have had any effect. And in this game, remember that snipers are +2 from where they start. So if nothing else, if you don't know what to do with your dummies, you can set them up for sniper protection on your key stacks. So do that instead. So there's that, the dummies, plus there's hip. You get 25% hip, fractions rounded up. So in each of these zones, I can have 2 or 3 hip. I'm not so sure if I did 3. I think I did. I think I did 3 hips over here. But what you want to do is, for example, now hopefully my opponent's not going to watch this, but this is a potential hip location. This isn't actually where I put the hip. Um, This is just an idea for a hip location. None of the hip locations that you see in this video are actually where I put them. So what I'm curious about is if people want to comment on this, where do you think I should put the hip and with what? Should I put a support weapon? Should I put the leader there? But really, if you can just figure out the locations where I have the hip, that would be great. So give that a try when you check this thing out. So, what else? Uh, the only thing that gives permanent illumination, and to my detriment, this did happen to me over here uh, with these tanks, these wonderful tanks that you get as the Germans. I'm not really sure that they're anything but a liability in this game. They're so lame, but yeah. So what'll happen is these will, if they flame up, and for some reason my opponent continues to burn them when he kills them, then they put a little illumination out there. This is quite interesting, actually. If you put a flame out there, a blaze, then you put on you can see that? Okay. Now, what the algorithm doesn't do is it doesn't account for shaded areas. This flame will not illuminate this hex because of the blocking terrain right here. So the vassal gurus, in their wisdom, have provided some shadow overlays someplace. I forget where they are. Anyway, you can put these back in shadow to show that they are not illuminated. Um, and that does bring up a point I just wanted to mention that I brought up earlier here. Uh, this whole vassal thing now, when it started out, it was probably the first vassal module. Um, it was really designed to play the game the way it's set up as if you're playing face to face. I don't think anybody remembers that. I don't think anybody wants to remember that, honestly, because let's remove this star shell here. That won't come off, you see. So I'm going to delete that because I don't want that there. Remove those circles. So my point is this. There are so many gimmicks, and people keep adding more gimmicks to this to digitalize the game. And I made the point, as usual, shot down by I won't call them the powers that be, but let's just say the traditionalists and or people who just like to disagree with me because they like doing that. It's quite funny. So, but doing so just ignores the truth. The truth is, the more bells and whistles you put on here, the more counters you don't have to put on the game that you do have to put on when you're playing the real game, like broken CMGs or things like that. All of these things that allow little tricks. The hip that you don't have to record on a piece of paper. The things that are normally done when you play face to face make the game much harder if you're actually playing with the real game. If you play Vassal all the time, um, aside from the fact that there are people out there who play Vassal who don't buy the modules that they're playing, okay, you know, that's a secondary thing because that happens with a lot of the war games now. Um, but there's never any effort to recognize that the real game is harder than Vassal. And people are going to set up a howl for me saying this, but it's true. I think the area rating should be segregated for face-to-face play from vassal play. If they're going to segregate PBEM play as non-valid, then therefore there should be two different distinct types of area ratings that you get for playing vassal versus regular. Okay. I don't think this idea will ever hit any kind of, well, acceptance other than a brick wall sort of a thing. But in the reality, if people decide to look at that objectively, they can only but admit that FTF is increasingly the original game, the game that we all buy modules for, is different enough from Vassal. That's all I'm going to say about that at the moment. At the moment. Right. So, but while you're playing Vassal, you might as well take advantage of the bells and whistles that are preferred to you and use them. So that's pretty much my summary here of setting up for defense. I won't say that I'm the best defensive player out there. I usually do about 50-50 on defensive games, and I've got a 75% win on the attacking. So obviously, I have quite a bias there. So probably one of the reasons I'm doing this video is I probably need to improve my defensive tactics. So you teach what you most need to learn, right? As they say. So that's what I'm doing. Hopefully you found this interesting. If you didn't and you didn't like it, thanks for watching all the way through. If you liked it, please subscribe and like the video and comment. Guess where my hip is, or tell me where you think hip should be. Uh, that would make logical sense for the situation that's here. There are some people that are really good at defense. I'm not one of them. So let's see what those guys have to say if they pop in. Who knows? Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Sorry that this video was late compared to the usual time frame of Wednesdays. I usually want to get it out on a Wednesday, but I wasn't able to. I've got too many things coming in, too many gigs, too much real work that makes real money. Quite happy about that, but it's thwarted my time. Aside from that, I've been spending a lot of time also making videos, and you can check my other channel on the Napoleonics from Hexasim, Fallen Eagles 2. There, it's a Napoleonic war game of Waterloo that has ASL-like features, but is more about command control. ASL doesn't have great command control rules. That's another topic for a different thing. But one of the things I like about this Hexasim game, that's the name of the publisher, is how he's managed to realistically portray some command control features of Napoleonic War in a very interesting and dynamic game. So I'm making videos on that too. Go check them out if you want to. I'd appreciate it. All right, nothing more to say. That's it for now. Have a nice weekend. Bye.